Welcome to Calgary Catalyst. Today we are on the Tech, the Good, Bad, and the Mist podcast. So, what is this podcast is all about? This is nothing but my way of exploring what is the tech scene is all about in Calgary. I'm a non-tech person, so for me, it's always been very curious to understand what is all this buzz about. Why is everyone talking about tech? There is Tech Thursdays, Tech Meetup, Tech YYC. So I wanted to understand deeply into this. So on this second episode today, we are going to understand a little bit better about something very unique and very special in Calgary called Platform Calgary. Yes, the Tech Innovation Center for tech startups in Calgary. So for the first time when I came across Platform Calgary, my understanding of the building is none other than that it's a parking lot. It's a parkade. So during my frequent visits to the library, every time I cross that space, my understanding about the center got a little bit wider and wider. The next time I got to understand is that, maybe it's a cool space where cool events happen in the city. And the third time I got to know that it's something very specific to the tech space here. But even now, it took me a little bit of time to explore and understand it is much more than that. And it is one of the most precious things for Calgarians here. And it's my pleasure and honor to have none other than Dr. Terry Rock, the President and CEO of Platform Calgary, here with us today to explore about Platform Calgary in a wider lens. Welcome to the show, Terry. I'm so honored to have you here today.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me and giving me the opportunity to share our story.
Yes, I'm actually was looking forward to this episode because this is very special. And my first question to you today is about what is the story behind it? How come this idea came into existence? Who is behind it? What drove to this beautiful setup here?
Well, it's a combination of great planning, a lot of luck, community leadership, a bit of just what makes Calgary special too. So we could probably spend the whole hour just on this, but I'll try to make it brief. The story of Platform Calgary is one of a lot of luck, some great Calgary leaders, some great planning, and some great timing. And it goes back to the 1980-81 when an organization called the Calgary Research and Development Authority was created by leaders in the energy industry, trying to make sure that industry was on the forefront of as a global industry, on the forefront of innovation and technology. And when that organization was created, it went along and ran for a long time up on the University Research Park. They built the Alistair Ross Technology Center, which eventually was 125,000 square feet of innovation space. Calgary Technologies Inc. was actually the evolution of the Calgary Research and Development Authority, and that started about 1990. And from 1990 until 2010, it was an independent organization. But the sort of, I guess, the instinct that we needed to collaborate more as a city started to kick in 2010, and Innovate Calgary was created then, which is the university's now innovation organization. And Calgary Technologies Inc. and Innovate Calgary were together under the Innovate Calgary brand name for 7 years, 2010 to 2017. And in 2017, they realized that the university had its own direction that it needed to go, and that really there needed to be something that focused more on the whole city. And so CTI was split back out on its own, and it became CTI, new name coming soon. And in this period of time in 2017, 2018, the Rainforest Calgary had started, and a group of people got together and said, to really make a difference, we need a place where everyone can come together. And Rainforest was out there talking about collaboration, and it needed to be a place that could really focus on community and collaboration. And so while I was being hired to figure out what to do with Calgary Technologies Inc., Brad Zumwalt and some other people in the community. Brad is a tech founder and investor who's been around for many cycles, built 4 companies, is incredibly generous community builder. That was all going on. He helped Rainforest get going. And then I'm trying to figure out what to do with CTI. And so it just became a natural that maybe I was hired to try to figure out what to do with CTI. That's happening. We got conversations going. And Brad had already made personal investments to get Platform Calgary happening in a partnership with, as you said, a parkade. It's a parkade. But there's 55,000 square feet there to do something with. And that's where Brad said, well, let's turn it into an innovation hub. He moved it along. He ended up donating all of the money he'd invested in that project to us, and we took it on and built it as Platform. So I came in 2018, May, and the big question the board asked me when they hired me was, how can we make Calgary a global hub for startups and innovation? And that was kind of like my final interview was like, what is your plan for this? And I did a lot of research around the world and what places were doing and what they focused on. And I realized that, first of all, our city didn't even put itself out there. Like we weren't trying to be that. And then second, if you did want to do that, there's actually great models to understand what it looks like. Startup Genome is the one that we ended up working with, which is a global benchmarking organization. And it tells you that you can't rush it. You have to go through stages. And the stage that we're in right now is actually still an early stage. It's called the activation stage. And what should you focus on? The first thing is community. So like when I say there's like good fortune and leadership, like really without knowing sort of globally what was the best practice, a group of people set in motion something that would create this space that would allow us to shine a spotlight on the people that are already here, that would allow us to focus on building community. And if you then go and look at the best places in the world, where did they start? And they started by focusing on community. The second thing they did was they focused on mentorship and providing a supportive environment. And the third is investment. And so when you kind of look at what we're building here, in a lot of ways, it's been very well planned. In a lot of ways, we're just super lucky that we hit on the things that our city needed at the right time.
Yes, and this is a very, very powerful story. We could see the visionary, the hard work of individuals who have literally pushed it to create something so amazing as this.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that I'm able to ask you questions about the same effort here.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing us the story. So coming on to the next obvious question. So what does it do? So everybody wants to understand, is it only for tech? Is it just about tech? Or what does it do?
Yeah, I kind of think of it as having, the broadest sense of who it appeals to is anyone who's interested in getting involved in things that are innovative, that are moving the city forward, that are, technology is really the core because it does that, not necessarily because it's technology that we're most interested in. Technology is going to transform every industry. Technology is helping Calgary solve the water crisis right now that we have, it's everywhere. And so it really is, at the broadest sense, it's a place for people to come and get connected into this community of people that are trying to create things that scale, that have big impact. And so we think of it as the innovation center for everyone. We're adding some things in the coming months that will make it so that you can get a better understanding of what's come before. Who are the companies and the people that have built things, and the technologies and the innovations that have been built in our city, where great things have been happening in our backyard. That's going to be, when you walk in, you'll be able to just experience those things in the future, not right now. And so that's an important part of telling that story, helping people to connect into this system that's already there. The next level down, though, is this network of partners that we've built. And so you might have heard of the Calgary Innovation Coalition. Well, think of that, and then plus more. We've kind of narrowed it down to there's a few groups that, when you are that person that wants to get involved, what do you need? And it's pretty simple. The first you need is a community of people like you. So we have lots of meetup groups that use Platform, some that we've started. We've got peer mentoring programs. So if you're a marketing leader and you want to advance your career, instead of taking a course, maybe the next thing you need to do is get connected with somebody who's got a bit more experience than you, who's going through the same problems that you have, and we can put that together into facilitated discussions. So the first thing is a community of people that are like you, going through what you're doing. We tried to pull that together, and there's dozens and dozens of groups like that. The second thing might be skills. So do you want to work in tech? You want to maybe you need to change your career or whatever that might be. And so skills and talent becomes a pillar. And so when you walk in, you can connect into an organization called Careers in Technology and Innovation. And they is a member-based organization that will help you move your career into tech. You can connect in with organizations that provide skill training, specific skill training, like how to write code and how to be a product manager, and we'll connect you into those organizations and support them. Then maybe you need investment. You need somebody to back you. And so we've got government organizations there that provide grants, but we've also got a whole network of investors, and we're building something called the National Bank Investor Hub. So you can get access to capital. That's something we hear from entrepreneurs constantly, is that the toughest part is getting that check in the door to get you off the ground. Well, Alberta Innovates and the federal government have great programs. Plus, there's a lot of investors here that want to invest in tech, or the investors themselves want to learn how to invest in tech, and we connect them. And the final thing is industry. So you might typically, most startups in Calgary are business to business startups. And so, maybe you have an HR software that you want to sell, or maybe you have a technology that the oil and gas industry can use. So we try to make sure that industry leaders are in the building, that they can bring their specific expertise. We've got areas that Calgary is known for, like energy and oil and gas. But we've also got, and clean tech as a part of that. We've also got financial services. We've got this booming fintech ecosystem here. And so you can access support and those industry leaders there. We're really happy to have the KPMG Ignition group in the building, which is only one of two in the world where KPMG's Ignition program is available in a tech startup hub. And they bring their corporate clients in to talk about innovation. So that becomes this community. But large oil and gas companies are in it all the time. So that's the community. You can get access to all of those things. I neglected to mention, in addition to the community part, when we talk about founders, there's programs for founders. So a lot of them. We'll work with typically over 1,000 business owners or future business owners in a year will be involved in our programs. That is Startup 101. It's Discover, which teaches you how to work with customers. It's Alberta Catalyzer, which is 18 weeks of programming in 3 sections. That is really for people who've got a business that is going. Maybe they're a first timer building something, and we just give them workshops and courses and a community to help them, coaching, amazing coaching. And then finally our incubator program that is 18 months of dedicated support for companies that are actively out trying to build and get sort of over that initial hump of growing the company. All of that programming is available at Platform, plus all of the programming from global accelerators. Like in the building right now is 500 Global, which will be there for 3 months with a cohort of 15 plus companies that they're working through their accelerator program, or sort of all of those kinds of programming is available. So it truly is one place to get access to a ton of support.
And it is massive.
Yeah.
It is very, it's huge.
Yeah.
So I see it like a whole spectrum. So from one end, from being an individual, a founder, entrepreneur, career improvement, to the industry level. It's like it covers everything.
You bet. So that's why we use the word ecosystem. It's kind of a funny word, but it really is. Everything from the biggest to the smallest is all available in there. The other thing I neglected to mention is that we have a membership program for tech startups. So if you're a tech startup that is under 20 employees, access to the Platform Innovation Center is free. If you're over 20 employees, it's only $500 a month, and that gives you access to discounted programming. It gets you access to using meeting rooms. Access to our peer-to-peer program that I mentioned is all included in the membership. So the real goal here is to build a movement of people who are leading these tech companies, and just make sure that that voice is loud and clear, and then also that they're well supported through Platform. We're now 470 companies are actually members at Platform, so it's a growing community.
That's really great. That's wonderful. So it's in a line, you could say you can find help here.
Yes.
No matter whatever you're in, you can find help in
We
Platform
say
Calgary.
everything you need to start and grow.
That's nice.
Yeah.
That's really nice. Okay, so our next question is about Startup Geonome report that got published recently.
Yes.
So I read that the Calgary tech startup alone creates closer to 8.1 billion in revenue for the Calgary ecosystem. Could you talk a little bit more onto that?
Yeah, that is, I think that is ecosystem value. So that would be the sort of cumulative value of the companies that are here. So when you think of like when a company's invested in, it gets a valuation. And so we've been tracking this for 5 years. And when we first started tracking, it was about 2.7 billion, I think. And that's only a few years. It's grown to over 8 billion. This directly translates into jobs and economic impact. What's interesting is it's still low in the global sense. You know, we're now in the 41 to 50 tier of the top 100 emerging communities globally, cities globally, or regions globally. For context, 5 years ago, we weren't on that map. So we've gone from below 100 to in the top 50 in a few years. There's 40 massive cities that are the not emerging, so we're on the emerging. So our goal would be that we think Calgary could be in the top 10 emerging side, or the smaller regions. It's just that's just a reality as a city that's going to be 2 million in the next 5 to 10 years. That's just our ranking globally. That's where we are. But like we're connected to some major cities around the world. Like our tier includes Vienna. And so that's maybe not always seen as a tech city, but Vienna is one of our competitors globally for quality of life. So when you hear the quality of life rankings, Vienna is one of them. And so now we're catching up in terms of the economy and that kind of thing. So benchmarking this was one of the first things we started in 2018, because I was asked, how can we make Calgary a global hub? And we weren't on any of the lists. So we weren't even trying. Yeah. And so just really understanding what does it take to do that matters. We look at things like the amount of money that our software engineers make, the average size of an investment round, and we really compare these things and try to figure out where are we doing a great job and where could we improve. And then all of our strategies are based around not just coming out of thin air, but they're based on what do we see other places doing and understand our context here and do what we can. So the National Bank Investor Hub is a good example. Regions around the world that are in our space, like in our kind of tier ranking, have one common problem. The supply of great entrepreneurs that wanting to build cool things in their city grows faster than the supply of capital to support those. And people just aren't used to investing in tech in these cities. So let's build something that helps people that want to invest in tech, and then make the connections to the people who are building things. So Calgary has a leg up on most cities around the world. We have a lot of wealth here, and it's a great quality of life and a great place to raise a family and all of those things. And a lot of people have made money that they're now looking. They don't just want to continue to invest in energy. They want to try other things. So we're able to bring them in and get them connected in and understand what it is to invest in tech and then start making investments. We are going to go faster than anybody else has here because our city just does that. And so we're super excited about that kind of thing happening.
That's great. In fact, you partly answered my next question, but I'm going to bring it up again. So it could be a very general question, but then what attracts people here? What attracts investment here? What is the advantage that, what's the leverage that Calgary has in comparison to the other big cities in Canada or even internationally?
Yeah. There's a couple of dimensions of this that I would like to go at. The first is it's just obvious that we're a global energy capital. So going with energy is capital. Like there's a lot of investment that is required to that. There's also high levels of engineering talent that go with cities like that. And a lot of head offices here, that kind of thing. So the nature of our economy is unique in Canada, just the way that Calgary's economy is structured, just based on that. What's really important for people to understand is that the energy sector is a tech sector. It just produces energy as its output. It's driven by technology, and a lot of the changes that industry has seen over the past little while have been through technology advances. They've lowered the cost of producing a barrel of oil substantially because of technology, the adoption of technology. So this is good. And so effectively what we've got is this great technologically astute population that is working in oil and gas right now. Well, clearly that industry is changing. It's focusing on sustainability. The world is demanding it. The product needs it. There's a lot of momentum behind it. So that's the first big driver that's going on, is the drive to net zero, the drive to sustainability in the energy sector has a lot of really smart people doing that, and they're using technology to make it happen. So that's already like an advantage that Calgary has. With Startup Genome, we're a top 30 city globally in clean tech. So we're already there, like we're already a global player in clean tech. So that's really important. We've got a bunch of super smart people walking around our city. We take it for granted. They are currently applying their talents to energy and oil and gas. So that's the first thing, is that some of the world's most interesting challenges are being solved here. We're also a place that is the center of global agriculture, and we have some of the largest global players in ag make their home in Calgary. So there's a bunch of technology being deployed there as well, and they're really interested in it. Those industries are all going to be consumers of technology, and so they're looking, it's an opportunity. If you want to build a business, like, your customers right here for that. We have strengths in the creative industries. We have strengths in financial services. We have strengths in transportation and logistics. All of these things are kind of naturally built over the years in our city. And health sciences, medical, biotech, those are other areas of deep strength. So in sort of some of the most important global challenge areas, health, food, energy, transportation, Calgary is working on all of those problems. So if you're an ambitious person that wants to get your hands dirty fixing those things or working on them, we're a place to do it. That's the starting point. The second thing, I mentioned capital. We just are a place where there is capital. People are used to investing in risky things. Typically that looks like oil and gas, and real estate, but it's shifting. People are interested in how technology can, how they can do that. And it has the bonus of they're building a new sector of our economy as we put more of a focus on it. The third part, I think, is just obvious. We have a fantastic quality of life, and we're more affordable than other places. It's getting more expensive here, yes. But still, we have a relative advantage on affordability. So put those things together. It's like, I want to work on the toughest things. There's capital. I got great quality of life. So you want to do those things in a place where your rent is more expensive, and you can't, your recreation opportunities are more limited because you're living in a place where it's hard to get out of town. I don't know. I think you work the same amount of hours in Calgary and you have more money left in your pocket, and you can use those hours to in a recreation environment that's better than any place in the world. I will admit, if your whole thing is food and the kind of restaurants and the downtown scene you're going to find in Toronto and Vancouver and Montreal, they got that more than we do. Yes, they do. And it's hard to do that without a big population. Yeah. But if you like nature and physical activity and winter sports and like all of these things, and then there's no better place than Calgary. Like you can you can put in a full long day of work at a tech company, get in your car and go out to the mountains in the same day and be back in bed by 10. Like that's really hard to beat. So I feel like we've got just all of these kind of key things that people want and need. And we're still, what's really interesting is like in the in the national rankings for venture capital, trends, for venture capital, we've had year over year of gains, like continued growth in venture capital investment, where other places have slowed or declined. We have continued, we've either held our own most recent year, or we grew when people were declining. And that's because we're a place where it's starting to happen. So this is the next place that's happening. And people are attracted to that. They're attracted to being part of the upswing. We're bucking the trends, and it just continues to happen. Like we're going to have another year where we're amongst the top in terms of a relative growth in venture capital or change. So, yeah, what more do you want?
That's nice, and I agree. There's no place like Calgary.
Yeah,
I'm very happy to call it home.
I think there's something else that I think is interesting, and I'd be interested if I think that we're a welcoming place.
True.
And I'm not sure that that's always on the banner. The ad for the city is a super welcoming, but we definitely try to be that. And I look at our colleague organizations, and I just feel like we are a place that just gives people a chance, no matter where they're from, and welcomes them to try things.
Yeah, and I've realized and felt that welcoming part myself. So I completely agree with that.
Yeah.
Yes.
There you go.
We're down to the last couple of questions.
Yeah.
So this is the one question that I ask every guest in this podcast. So the title is Tech, the Good, Bad, and the Missed. So according to you, what's the good, what is the bad, and what is the missed opportunity side of tech that we look at Calgary?
That's interesting. Well, there's the good is, I think, I talked a lot about the good. I want to just talk about one thing that's I find interesting is we put out a FinTech award the last 2 years for Calgary, and it's called Calgary FinTech Award. And we had applications from across the country, but what would really surprise us was the number of FinTech startups that are right here in our backyard that maybe people didn't know about. Mm-hmm. So I think that's one of the things to watch is that financial services, there is a capability here in Calgary where I talked about our head offices and the just the amount of transactions that happen, and so that makes it us ripe to be a city where there's an emerging fintech scene, and that's happening. So we've got some really great fintechs coming, more growing all the time, and some are going to be very surprising in terms of how big they get. So I think that's something that I think is good. That's happening right now. We see a lot of evidence. The bad. Look, we've got a lot of work to do as a city to be more inclusive and more welcoming. I think that's just the fact. I think that that founders from diverse backgrounds have less access to capital. They tend to be underestimated in terms of what they can do, and we just generally need to do a better job of being welcome, doing outreach, meeting people where they're at, and getting them access to the supports that they should have. We talk about one of the things that inspires me is France. Their whole strategy to deal with diversity is about replicating privilege. So there are people who are born with natural advantages, and those are privileges. And instead of trying to mitigate those, let's replicate them so that everybody has access to great networks and capital and all the things that they use to move ahead. We can't be a city where you have to have been born with advantages in order to experience what we're doing. When we say what's happening here, when we say the innovation center for everyone, we really mean like these opportunities should be available to everyone. And I don't think we're doing enough there. In our investor hub, we're going to be announcing some initiatives specifically to help get capital to founders from diverse communities and to specifically help funds get going that are designed to help founders from diverse backgrounds. So I would say that's the bad. It's not good enough yet.
Okay.
And the missed, what is being missed? Boy, this is a hard one for me because we're in the center of the action. You know, you talked about it, and I'm just going to use this as a metaphor. I think tech is being missed. The true story of tech is being missed in Calgary. We think of it as something separate. It's integrated into everything. The number of people who think the platform is just a parkade, that is going to be my life goal, is to make it so that people understand it's not just a parkade, that inside there, it is a door you walk into, you get access to all of this, and there's this whole community of support that's there. This story is still surprising to people, that tech is here, it's growing, you know, more and more people are getting it. True. But what is the true potential of this to transform our economy, to really build diversity into how people make their living and make a life in our city? I think that's still being missed. It's like it should be a bigger headline that more Calgarians need to know.
That's wonderful. I love the answer. Very honest and very real. Thank you so much for highlighting that. So we come to the last question in the show. So this is nothing about Platform Calgary, but this is going to be something personal about you.
Yeah.
So I was contemplating, should I ask you about what drives you to be the Calgary Catalyst, like the project name? Or I was thinking about, should I ask something more towards the goal-oriented? So I'm going to put out both the questions. It's up to you to choose. So my first question was about what drives you. And the second question is, we live in a world where there's so many distractions, so many voices, so many things to look that grabs our attention. And between all this, how do you stay focused on that goal that you wanted to focus and move on?
Yeah. Well, so what drives me, you know, I have my personal motto is be for the world, and I can explain all of that, but it's basically when I've had the opportunity in my life. When I was 21, I was elected president of ISEC Canada, this international student organization, and I got to spend a year traveling across our country and around the world representing Canada, and meeting with university students. And I realized through that through accident of birth and being in Canada and having a stable family and all the things that I've had, that, you know, I've just met people who were living through war in the early 90s. And so I can remember clearly listening to a story about somebody in Liberia and the trouble she was going through, and thinking, I have to be someone who's making a difference. So that was the first one. I was already in a position to do that, but that was just became cemented into my being. I ended up with an opportunity to create Calgary Arts Development Authority, the city's agency to develop arts and culture, which is sort of the big place where I kind of learned the ropes on how to do the city building stuff I'm doing now and ecosystem building. And I was at a conference about creative cities, and a guy named Charles Landry was speaking. He was kind of the animator of the conference. And he said, you know, we talk about creative cities and there needs to be some kind of ethical framework. Like, why are we doing this? And this really bothered me because I'd been thinking about, we're trying to develop the arts and culture sector, but we were using economic goals as the driver. Like, you know, we wanted a better economy, so we want to help artists so our economy can be better. But it's clearly not why people become artists, is to make their economy or their city better. And so something was bothering me. The next speaker was the founder or this head of Chaos Pilots, which is a Danish business school. And he said their mission was to be the best business school for the world as opposed to the best business school in the world. And that was when the big light bulb went off for me. That's what it's about. We need Calgary to be a city for the world, a city where we're solving global challenges here, where we're like, how we do things and what we're doing matters in history. And that just became the sort of animator for what I do. And so I've always kind of had that, that sort of make that really personal. That needs to be what I am about. And so then I just kind of used that as a framework to go in. I was part of Leadership Calgary, which is this great organization that is now called the Human Venture Leadership Institute, that gave me a foundation and a network of civic leaders that are all committed to this. And so we bring that into Platform. Like, it's the innovation center for everyone. It's about giving individuals opportunity, but also making our city a place where all these great things happen. That has just always been, I don't know, I can't explain it. That's always been the thing for me. How do I stay focused with, all of the distractions? We try, the first thing is I got a PhD in strategy, entrepreneurship, and innovation when I was young. And I mentioned we do global benchmarking and we try to understand where we are. And then we use that to set big goals. So when Amazon HQ2 was floating around, cities were trying to become the next location for Amazon, the headline was 50,000 jobs. That'll transform your economy. We went after it. We didn't get it. And so our group looked and said, well, if 50,000 jobs is the goal, then how else could we go at that? And that's where we came up with, well, what if it was 1,000 companies that could grow here? On average, they employed 50 people. That would be a huge difference in our economy. So you take all that stuff, boil it down to, like, in a year, over the next 10 years, we need to help this many entrepreneurs get from here to here so that we can then have this ripple effect. We boil it right down to those numbers, and then we build our system to track to those numbers. And if it's not tracking, we change things. And so it comes, it's very sort of big and abstract, and then it can go down to, I can look at our funnel of programs and say, well, we need to create something else because we don't have enough people going into this, and we need to do more outreach, and we need to do all these things. And I don't know if it's working so far, but it's that's how I approach it.
That's really great. Plus, I remember this story because you mentioned it at the keynote in Social West.
Yes,
which was really inspiring.
Yeah, thanks.
Thing.
Yeah.
So,
that's exactly that was how we did it. I call it turning it upside down. Like, take a problem and just look at it from a different dimension. And I just, fundamentally in my belief set is that entrepreneurs are the ultimate game changers in terms of rewiring society for making it better for more people. One of my favorite phrases, I can't remember who came up with this, might have been, I can't remember, but Paul Graham maybe, but a startup is a permissionless way to change the world. No one's giving entrepreneurs permission to go do what they're doing. They see a problem, they assemble the resources, they go after it. And that's how the world changes. And so I like unleashing that force on our city.
That's great. So this has been a very incredible conversation. I loved, enjoyed, and listening to your story and all the incredible work that so many people have put into this amazing thing called Platform Calgary. And you can only imagine and see how so many people can get benefited through what's to come. So thank you so much for being on the show today, for walking us through the whole process and sharing us so many things. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you.